Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Now, here's your host, Aslan Hajavandi.
Welcome into it, Friday edition of Wake Up War Chant. You already know my name. Corey Clark back in the saddle. You're a Pink Floyd fan.
Hard to say 5 times. Yeah, man, I like you bringing out the Floyd.
Yeah,
that's the post-Roger Waters Floyd, but it's still very good. It's still good. It's not Dark Side or The Wall.
Chauffeur showed up and called out Regulate by Warren G, and I put it on, so I'm like, well, shoot, man, the guy who's always usually here should get his
I
say
appreciate
so.
that, man. That's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not a big Pink Floyd guy. Like the we don't need that song always freaked me out. I don't like it.
Well,
man.
they're a freaky kind of band. But yeah, no, I think if you went back and listened to their stuff now, you would appreciate them probably.
All right, well, give me some other song titles that can maybe put them in my rotation and learn to appreciate them. But that was the only one that I kind of heard off the top of the bat. I'm like, maybe they'll play that's a song that I recognized.
There you go.
Learning to Fly, right?
Yeah, it's a good jam.
It is.
It's a good jam. Haunting.
Yeah, you hippies listening to your Floyd
I know,
laser
buddy.
shows and
I know.
everything. Again, he's Corey Clark, warchant.com senior writer, joining us back here on Wake Up War Chant on this Friday. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations in College Town, Central Township, and Madison Social. Lots of you probably went out to Township. I think they had a big sort of fanfare for National Margarita Day, which was yesterday, and they also had Taco Thursday. So it all melded together, I'm sure, into a beautiful time out there in College Town. Big time had by all.
I thought National Margarita Day obviously would be Cinco de Mayo. It seems odd that you'd have another one.
Well, you guys spread it out if you're a tequila producer, right? Or you're the sour mix producer in the country.
Everything is a national something day.
I'm surprised that they have those terrible calendars, like every single day can tear off, and it's like there's got to be one that just tells you every single day's national blanket. I mean, one day it's National Grilled Cheese Day, the next day it's National Hot Dog Day,
Bacon Day, or National T-shirt Day.
Just spend your money the way you guys want. But we recommend going out maybe to For the Table Hospitality and doing it there. All right, Corey, good to have you back here, man. So much has happened since you've been away, but not really. I guess the biggest
What did you think with Ira? What did you like? What was the dynamic? I didn't get to listen to it. What was the dynamic with you and Ira?
Much reverence to my friend Ira Chauffeur. I just kind of let him roll, man. I'd kind of just send it out there.
Stayed back and let him
stay out of his way, man.
Well, yeah, that's what you got to do with
him.
Let
him make plays.
Yeah.
Let him make plays, just let him go ahead and run the route, trust it, put the ball on the spot.
The problem sometimes, because obviously I've been doing a show with Ira for it's 8 years now.
Seminole Headlines.
It's Seminole Headlines. I know obviously all you guys listen to it, and if you don't, you need to start.
I can endorse
sometimes
the show.
He's so good that I get caught up in just watching him. Yeah. And I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say, and it's not a dialogue. It's just, hey, man, I'm going to appreciate this guy. Yeah. And so it becomes just a guy talking to himself because I'm not interacting with him. So I wondered if you had the same problem where he was so good.
He's in rarefied air. I can't.
Yep.
I mean, he's another cut above. He's on a different shelf than I am. So I just kind of stood back. I'm like, all right, man, I'm just going to let this guy.
Kind of in awe a little bit. Yeah.
Because it was his turn. Again, I was joking with him. It was his turn to take his lumps on the Jimbo Chronicles couch of venting,
Right.
So it was like
you got all 3 of us.
Yeah, so you guys all got your licks in on War Chant, and I know I heard Jeff needling you guys a little bit on headlines, but by and large, the series has been pretty well received. I mean, it's been eye-opening for a lot of folks. Again, I don't know, I think it's sometimes maybe tough when you've been in this area for so long, or this is what you do on a day-to-day basis, just to take all this, I know what's going on, but there's so many people who love this program that simply weren't aware of what was going on, and this has kind of shed some light on it. I don't know if it's going to bring closure, but at least it's something to kind of connect some of the dots, because at the end of the day, it still doesn't make sense. It's only been like 90 days. The guy's been gone, he's here for 11 years. He's only been gone for not even 3 whole months, I don't think, and there's just some dots to connect, and you guys did a pretty good job of that.
But now, though, we've talked off the air too and on the air, when you hear the stories of how he didn't have a lot of sympathy in the athletic department and not a lot of friends, well, you understand that now. You understand how somebody that has so much success has one down year and it implodes. Right. Because when you're that volatile behind the scenes. That was kind of that was Ira's point all along, is the reason to do this is because it doesn't, from afar, it would never make sense to just, what happened where he had no champions. He had nobody to champion his cause other than the president, who kept talking, at least publicly kept talking about how he wanted Jimbo to stay forever. But nobody else really had Jimbo's back, and you wondered why. I mean, they were all here for those runs. They were always here for that championship. And now you kind of know a little, okay, they all were rubbed the wrong way to the point, and people are human beings. So
crazy
anyway.
Crazy how it works out, but it's not ending. But we will move along. We renamed the show FRN, the Fisher Radio Network.
Okay,
instead of Wake Up War Chant, but we're back to doing Wake Up War Chant. Obviously, in your absence for the day, you guys were able to touch on it in headlines. So Tyler Holton, we found out the other day, obviously will be lost for the year, and probably a little bit longer than that. Obviously, having to undergo Tommy John surgery. I just want to touch on it. You can say your piece. I don't know. I hope I didn't come off as being cold or heartless, because I wasn't like thoughts and prayers or whatever to Tyler. It's just Tommy John surgery is no longer the sort of crapshoot death sentence that it used to be. I mean, it was always such an uncertain thing, but now it's almost. I mean, I heard Jeff say like it's almost like maintenance on an arm, but obviously hoping everything goes fine for him. But it's one of those things where he's talented enough, he's young enough that it just feels like just a setback, and he'll be fine. Just not on the timeline that Florida State fans probably wanted.
And we know him as a person; he's a really good guy, or certainly seems to be to us. He just is a pro's pro when he's talking to us, and apparently a really good teammate. Again, a local kid. So you feel bad for him. But, yeah, man, I mean, the perspective that we have in this country with recent events, I mean, it's an elbow injury where he should come back better than ever. It sucks. It's sports, but it's sports. You know what I mean? If it was a career injury, you'd be like, oh, man, that's really a bummer. That's a real bummer. And it still is a bummer, but it's just a bummer for 2018 Tyler Holton. 2022 Tyler Holton shouldn't be affected by it at all. If he's good enough to get to the bigs, he'll be in the bigs, because he'll come back unless something went wrong with the surgery, which, I mean, they're really good at those things now. He should come back as good as new, maybe even better. Sometimes guys even throw harder when they get that thing done after they come back from rehab. So I don't think it might affect his money in the short term as far as the negotiating ploy he might have with a team that drafts him. But overall, man, if he's going to get to the bigs, he's still got almost the exact same chance of getting to the bigs as he did 12 days ago. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
It's just unfortunate, and it's a bummer for the 2018 Florida State baseball team, because it still does, because they still got some arms. But man, it had a chance to be a really, really nice team, because there's a ton of arms. Maybe it's like arm. I don't feel like they've had this kind of pitching since maybe the 90s, man. I mean, they're loaded. If these freshmen are as good as we think they are, and they've been billed to be, man, they got some options that like they haven't had in a while.
That's if everything kind of holds up, then and we, Cole Sands makes that next step or continues to, and that sort of. I mean, I was going to kind of ask you, I don't know if it's way too much of a, far down the line question and put you to freezing cold takes, expose you to that kind of nonsense. But do you feel like it's Cole's job? I mean, if this team is where we think they should be in June, he will be it'll because he's the number one guy, or do you think maybe Drew Parrish is the guy who can come in and take number one, or maybe like a guy like Andrew Karp if he figures it all out? 'Cause I feel like Andrew Karp has I think he's got the right stuff. I almost feel like he's trying to be too perfect, just in talking to him in the post game and hearing the way he kind of criticizes himself, that if he can maybe just get the mental aspect and approach down and being the starting guy, that he might even have the highest upside of those three guys.
Well, and then you also have Pollock, the freshman from right here in Tallahassee. I think he's from Lincoln. I think he went to the same school as
and he's
Holton.
a lefty like Holton.
Yeah.
Look at all the parallels.
That's
where they start. That's where they end.
Those are four legitimate starting pitcher candidates. I think Pollock is going to start Sunday, not Karp. But, yeah, man, I think Cole Sands, he looked good his first start. That's one start, though, against Xavier.
You don't think Karp will start? You don't think he's going to be number 3 guy?
I don't know. Well, I mean, he's not this week. I mean, I know they was
already
talking
about this Sunday against
this
Troy.
Sunday.
Gotcha.
It's Pollock.
Okay.
So if Pollock goes out and throws 6 innings and gives up 2 runs, well, it'd be hard to take him. He wouldn't pitch again that next Tuesday.
That's true.
So there's a chance they might do that. But either way, Cole Sands how he pitches is obviously going to be paramount for this team. If he can't be what he was last year, and we heard all preseason that he wasn't that guy, he was different. He certainly looked good in the opener. If you get that Cole Sands, who doesn't have an ERA of 5.5, but maybe has an ERA of 3.5, well then, yeah, man, you've got legitimately 3 good. Karp's proven he can pitch. Drew Parrish is a viable, very good college baseball pitcher for sure. He's just good. So you still got arms, and the offense will be there. You just lost one of the best pitchers in the country, though. There's no way around it. You're not going to be as good, but you can still be good enough, if that makes sense.
What's bizarre is, despite the fact that they just lost an All-American, guy that was going to probably go in the top half of the draft, I still feel more bullish about the pitching staff than I do the bats right now. And I know obviously it's early, and it's just historically speaking, the pitching's been the weak aspect of this program in recent years, and the hitting's been that sort of reliable sort of rock. But there's parts of that I have concerns about towards the bottom of the lineup. I think it'll work out, I think, eventually, right? I don't know, maybe I'm expecting too much too soon. Once they get that whole batting order figured out, I think right now it's a work in progress for 11 in terms of where he wants to put guys and if, who's going to DH on certain days. But I don't know, just, saw a little bit of glimpses against USF, a little choking up at the bat, leaving guys on base, and you're just like, come on, guys. This is early in the season, I know, but capitalize on lesser arms.
I mean, look, you keep getting guys on base. That's the name of the game. Eventually you'll come through with a hit that can change the game. And what they'll always continually do is I don't know how many great hitters they have in this lineup. I mean, Luke is good. Luke's a good hitter. Mendoza, obviously. Cal Raleigh.
Luke's been a little bit cold. So
yeah, it's just four games.
Drawn,
yeah, it's 4 games, and he's proven he can hit. That's not going anywhere. He'll be fine. And Mendoza and Raleigh can hit. It's in Applin. Those are the 4 that can hit. Yeah. The other guys, we don't know yet. We don't know what they're going to be, but we do know they're going to get on base, and because that's just what they preach over there. So it can certainly be good enough. Their offense this year will certainly be better than what Florida had last year. Florida won a national championship with that thing. Now, they had crazy top 5 first-round arms all over their staff. Florida State doesn't have that. But if you can pitch and pick it up, Florida State's offense will be plenty good to do the rest.
They picked it up pretty well too, which is a nice, refreshing thing to see.
Keep doing that, man, and you'll win plenty of games.
I'm going to pick up some heat after this. Someone's got beef with me. They posted it on the internet. I'm going to talk about it next. Wake up, War Chant.
These recruiting updates are nothing but fluff.
Are you wasting your time again on free blogs and social media to get the scoop on FSU recruiting?
Yeah, it's all bait and switch. Get me excited with a headline, but get nothing in return. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with FSU recruiting?
Could be another top 5 class, but for the real scoop, you'll need to get your own War Chant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer. Just sign up and you'll get full access through signing day. And nobody has more accurate and timely information on recruiting than warchant.com.
You know I like free. Sign me up.
warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.
Yeah, so Ira had his cup of coffee here in the big leagues. Corey's back in the saddle.
Playing a little Clark music.
Yeah, a little Clark music for it, because, we're going full Hudge of Andy in it. We're going full Hudge of Andy.
I like Warren G, but Tom Petty, R.I.P.
Yeah.
That's my dog right there.
Gone too soon. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality, one of the roughest segues in radio history right there that you all just got to witness. But let's talk about the great things going on over at Township. Next Thursday, which is March 1st, right? I think if my math is not mistaken me, shouldn't that be, or maybe the following March?
Anyway. Saturday is March 3rd. So
okay.
I like where your head's at.
Anyhow, Thursday, March 1st will be German Night, also known as German Night, a specialty menu of German dishes, and it will also feature some German and German-style beers. I don't think that will include Michelob Ultra.
I feel like that's got to be, there's some German in there somewhere, right?
Adolphus? No, that's Adolphus Busch. I'm sure the Coors family's got to have some of that sort of stuff.
Right.
Anywho, all right, so we'll be getting to the Renegade Express mailbag later on in the program. Lots of folks asking really good questions, so that'll make our jobs nice and easy. Let me get to this beef I saw. So, man, and listen, I promise you I'm not going around trying to pick fights with people, Corey.
I mean, I feel like you are. There's
I know
a lot
you do.
of stuff on the internets that get your attention.
That's why I'm trying to preface this with it. I'm not.
Okay.
I was, we had some problems uploading the podcast yesterday, so I was looking on YouTube because apparently our podcasts also go on YouTube, and I wanted to go back and make sure a couple of the other shows were also fine. And this one person was like, "Dude, you sound like you want Willie to fail," which I think he meant fail.
Probably.
So I want to get into this long, arching, convoluted conversation that you hopefully will get on the rails with your focus and your wit and your knowledge of everything. Man, I don't want Willie to fail by any means. I'm just kind of bracing for, I don't know if it's just the skeptic in me that expects the worst, and then that way you can never be disappointed. I couldn't really enjoy the 2013 season until probably mid-October. I was that skeptical about things because I thought 2012 was going to be the year, and that fell by the wayside against NC State. I mean, my thing is I'm not a Jimbo loyalist. I just feel like, and I'm not trying to act all high and mighty here, I just feel like I'm matured a little bit in my way of judging the success of my favorite teams and coaches. I kind of realized that, like, listen, man, things aren't always going to work out perfect. There's going to be mistakes along the way. You're not going to get every break in a game, and that's not because of bad coaching. It's just the way things kind of work out unless you root for the team in Tuscaloosa. And it's just, it's hard to imagine just everything going as perfect as people want this honeymoon phase to sort of expand into. So I'm just kind of bracing for it. And some of the people, there's people that take this stance on War Chant that, I didn't like Jimbo when we were even winning. And it's like, well, good for you, man. Good for you that your favorite team went, 14-0, won a national championship, and you still weren't happy with things. Like, good for you. Like,
good for you.
Let me know
dude.
when you go to the soup kitchen and spit in the food, man. You're a cool person to hang around with. But it's just how many people. I mean, how many? You guys talked about offensive line coaches. It seems like everybody hates their offensive line coach. How many programs, blue blood, we always think we can compete for a national title? How many people really love their coach?
Yeah, I mean,
once the games have started, once the games have played, there's a body of work out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now the ones in Athens, the ones in Clemson, and the ones in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, maybe Ohio State as well, I guess. Or maybe they're even a little bit peeved that they haven't been in 2 years in a row now.
They're probably good with him. And then Seattle, I think he's done a really good job at Washington compared to where they were. But by and large, yeah, man, there aren't many people that are all fired up about their head coach. They're always, even if they like him and they know he's doing a good job, there's always going to be criticism. Man, Bowden got tons of criticism throughout the 90s. Tons of it. Most fans, including myself at the time, were like, man, you really only got to get up for 2 games a year. You have so much talent that there's 2 teams on your schedule each year that can beat you, and you always find a way to lose to one of them. That was my young man's thought process on the program. It wasn't fair because to sustain that is remarkable. To be in a place where you win 10 or 11 games every year. Look, man, Nick Saban's had 1 undefeated season in his life. He's got as many undefeated seasons as Jimbo. It's hard to do. Everybody has their issues with their coach, except, like you said, those guys. But, I mean, I think they're 2 different things. I think, man, what I would say is, man, just embrace it. I guess I don't understand the point of being, tentative or hesitant, like you're going to get your heart broken because they go 7-5 next year.
It sucks, Corey. It sucks when you lose to NC State and Raleigh, man. When you take off work, you missed out on Ole Miss beating LSU and Oxford as part of your job obligation because you wanted to stay home and watch the Florida State game that night, and they lose to freaking NC State and Raleigh.
Yeah,
it's happened.
I remember that game. You talking about the 2012 game?
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. I believe they were up 16-0 at half in that game and then didn't score again.
My thing is, I'm not mad at Willie. I'm not tentative against Willie. It's just I know my fan base. I know these people. I've been on the message boards for 16 years. I know the same people that love him right now, that if they lose at Virginia Tech and he loses to Florida, I mean, then it's over. He sucks. Lethal Simplicity, stupid. What were we thinking? They're not going to say what we're thinking.
I think that's, number one, that's the vocal minority. Just as the people that are thinking he's going to win 5 national championships, that's the vocal minority. I think most people are rational. They're usually, that's the silent majority, as Richard Nixon called them. I think most people are very excited, but I don't think anybody's expecting him. Anybody that thinks he's going to go undefeated next year is fooling themselves. Obviously, they're not going undefeated. They might not ever go undefeated while he's here, but you can still be excited about the future of the program, especially considering the darkness that was last season. You've got a breath of fresh air. You've got a bright light that recruits are apparently flocking to. And you think of all that, you think, they could have hired a McElwain type. You know what I mean? Or they could have hired a Randy Shannon type or an Al Golden type.
Yes.
Just name anybody. They could. We think
that's
they got a star.
Tough. It's tough to find good coaches. We had a good coach, and we no longer want any part of him, which now all makes sense. And I get he no longer was as good as he once was. I get he was trending down.
He's a good coach. Here's my thoughts on Jimbo, and I know we don't want to. But here's what I'm going to say. I don't think he's a good coach for a long haul. You had already gotten the best out of Jimbo.
He burns bright.
He wasn't. Yes, exactly. He burns bright. He does not. It's not a slow fade. He burns bright and it's done. And you were not going to bounce back up with him. I just do not see that. he was going to have to change everything about his program and his coaches to bounce back to where he was. I just think that's very hard. I think it's much easier to do what Taggart's about to do, to breathe life into a program like Jimbo did, to build it back up after you've seen it crumble, which it did with 12 losses in 29 games. So, again, I see what I kind of think I know what you're saying, that you had a good coach, you had a guy that's proven he can win a national championship.
And it wasn't good enough for a lot of people. And it wasn't good enough for a lot of people. It wasn't.
Remember, man, I would go and just look at Twitter 2 years ago or a year ago. People were in love with Jimbo Fisher at this school.
And then they turned on him.
And
they was going to turn on Will. And I hate that. Let's just all be on the same page. Let's have realistic expectations. Let's look at how things were. I mean, now this whole retrospective look back of 2015 sucked. They lost to Houston. Dude, that team had no quarterback and still made it through the season to a New Year's Six Bowl. 2016, we're having to write promissory notes. Whatever, how embarrassing. I don't care. We still beat Florida. We still beat Miami. They made it to a New Year's Six Bowl. They beat a team from the Big Ten that still now, in hindsight, was a horrible season. I think I don't think anybody thinks that was a horrible season. Anybody with a brain doesn't think that's a horrible season. We should have seen the signs coming. We were on the downswing.
The signs were certainly there. That you are having to sign promise. You are having to sign promise notes. Imagine Nick Saban having to do that. I mean, it's preposterous. But anyway, there were signs. But you also thought they were going to be so talented this year that they at worst they'd lose 2 games. But it fell off a cliff. And that's what always happens, man. When you have an accident, the accident just doesn't happen in that immediate moment. There's signs, maybe you pick out your phone to start reading your text a mile up the road.
Don't do that, people.
Kids, by the way, if you're listening to this in the car, kids, adults, hopefully the kids aren't driving. Adults, you're driving.
Put the phone down.
Put the phone down. Put the phone down and just look at the road. 10 and 2, please.
Yeah.
Or at least, actually I drive more, oddly, I drive 7 and 5.
Don't do that either.
My hands are on the bottom of the wheel. I'd never put them up top. Sometimes I just have 2 fingers on the 6 and just drive with my 2 fingers.
Is this your way of stalling my anger? So I
I was going through the 10 and 2. I don't know that people do the 10 and 2 much anymore.
I think we're getting off on the wrong exit. I don't want this is not really about Jimbo. This is about the fan base and them they think that I'm talking down about Willie, or I don't think Willie's going to be a good coach. It's just we've seen how this fan base not turns on each other, turns on the coach, but they're just a weird faction of this fan base, and they're the vocal minority, I guess, that just have crazy expectations and think that this team needs to hit home runs every single year with hires, which you hope you do. But look at all these other programs across the country that, you got rid of Mac Brown, you brought in Charlie Strong. How did that work out? You got rid of, Urban Meyer left. You thought, and listen, I was so scared. When we got Will Muschamp, I'm like, oh my gosh, they got Will Muschamp and they have Charlie Weiss, and we're not going to be able to stop them. And they were horrible. It's tough to get a good coach. And I'm just sort of, I want to just kind of balance everybody. I'm not trying to bring people's enthusiasm down. I'm just saying, let's all remember this so that if things don't go right off the bat, that we're still behind the guy. Because we've seemed to be such a fleeting fan base when it comes to just, being loyal to somebody. We haven't had a lot of people to be loyal to. We've only had 2 coaches in the last 40-some-odd years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are excited about this hire. A lot of it has to do with how the last guy left in the season he had. Not how he left, not the stuff he said, just the season he had. It was gross to watch. This guy seems more exciting. His offense will be more fun. They'll score more points. They should be more fun to watch. That's all well and good. But, yeah, man, nobody should go into next season expecting 11-2 or 11-1. I don't see how I just don't see that happening. I think, like Jimbo's first year, they lost 4 games. They won 10. It was a good year. It was a good starting year. The next year they went 9-5. No, what is it? 9-4. They won 9 games.
Yes.
Yeah, and they went to the Champs Bowl. So his first 2 years weren't great, but fans weren't ready to give up on him. Now after that 2012 NC State game,
I'm guilty.
They were almost through with him.
Yeah, I'm guilty too. I thought at that point, if
he can't win, he's never going to happen. Yeah. But you were wrong.
I was.
So hopefully this fan base will realize no matter what happens the first 2 years, and even halfway into that third year, man, the greatness can be right around the corner. And I just think we all agree. And the reason 2013 happened was they had some great recruiters on the staff that brought in some unbelievable players. Jimbo Fisher, chief among them, a great recruiter that also happened to get the best quarterback in program history in that group. but they were all loaded with NFL talent. Well, the key is to just get the players here. They're going to get the players here. I have no doubt about that. Now, whether they go 13-0, we'll see. But they're going to get they're going to get great players here. That's 80% of the battle, 90% of the battle. So that's going to happen. But again, nobody's going to. It's like the basketball fans that rip ham after every loss and are quiet after every win. There's a certain faction of every fan base that's like that. They only want to bring up the negative. I don't know. It's like when I'll write something and get 80 positive tweets at me, or not 80. That's probably pushing it. 40,
99%.
Most of them are positive, but the one that's negative is the one that I harp on and like, oh, I'm going to respond to that guy. I'm not going to say thank you to all those other people. I'm just going to respond to that guy. That's a weird part of our minds, right? And I just think there are some fans that only comment on the negative and don't ever say, wow, that was a really great play, or he's a really great player. It's always, man, what's he doing out there? Why do they keep playing him? And I think that same thing will happen. After every loss, there'll be people that are wondering if he's the right hire. That's a very small minority.
I'm not rooting for him to fail by any means. I've simply
What about fail?
Followed not that either. That I don't want him to get hurt. I'd rather his emotions get hurt than physically. Physical pain is bad. I've watched enough college football. I've covered enough teams across a number of different conferences that I know how hard it is, man. I know how hard it is to win a national championship. It's tough, man. And if this guy can win one in 10 years,
you're saying man a lot.
I am. I'll stop it.
You just said man right there.
If this human being
right
can win a national title over the course of 11 seasons, I'll be happy. I will be. I think there's a lot of folks that probably won't. This discussion will rage on right after this. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back into it. It's Wake Up War Chant. I'm Aslan. He is Corey Clark. Thanks so much for being here, folks, spending your day with us. 80% of your work week is complete, man. Hopefully it'll all roll along just fine. And I said man again. I'm sorry. $1 the tip jar. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 great locations in the College Town area. You know many of them. It's Madison Social. It's Township. It's also Central. Go to them. You'll enjoy yourselves. I can almost assure you of it. Corey, how are you?
You're crushing the music today, man.
Trying, man.
Crushing.
Yeah, got to do little things how to curry favor back with the people. All right, so I have all these things that I was telling you about that I see throughout the day, and I'm like, we should talk about these things on the show, but I never write them down, and then I forget about it.
Oh, that's one way to run a radio show.
Yeah, so here we go. There's so many things that we can talk about. We also have a lot of questions to get to. How about this one? I saw this. It's kind of weird. So Chris Weinke got a job.
As a running backs coach. Man, here's the
thing.
When you think,
weird,
who would know more about being a running back than the fleet-footed Chris Weinke? I mean, you saw that guy, how he made people miss in the hole.
Graceful,
just shedding tacklers
nimble.
all the time. Nimble, just outrunning guys to the corner. Could really put his foot in the ground. Make that one cut and go like Dalvin. You know what I mean? Just see that cut and go. It's weird. It kind of tells you, I know people are worried about, I've said it before, but man, they just want guys on staff that they give them, that can recruit and that can give them a job. Odell Higgins was a tight ends coach when he first got his first job here. I mean, you're just trying to get people on the staff. Obviously, Chris Weinke, what is he? He can teach a running back where to be for a certain blitz look. He can do all that stuff, but that's all God-given stuff, man. How's Weinke going to coach running backs?
Who's Florida State's running back coach?
I mean, why are you asking like that?
Because I don't know. It's not Telly Lockett. I thought Telly Lockett's doing tight ends. So my whole thing was back in the day, it used to be tight ends coach was sort of like the he's our coach, but you're just focused mainly on recruiting. Like you were just like the recruiting guy. Now, Chris Weinke, who was coaching quarterbacks in the National Football League 2 years ago, is now a running backs coach at Tennessee, and it's like Clay Helton's brother from Southern Cal is the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Like, that's the better option than Chris Weinke, a guy who played the position, who coached at IMG, head football coach, was around kids of this age that were coming up and was coaching, number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't even pretend to know what goes into making a hire like that and in filling out a staff. But I do know that they obviously want Chris Weinke's mind in those meetings, in those offensive meetings, and they want to give him some position. That position was open. I'm sure some point along the line he'll get back to coaching quarterbacks.
That's just so bizarre. But that's the way you slide him onto the staff. I mean, you can't give. It's Pimpleton, by the way. It's Coach Dante Pimpleton's running back.
Coach Pimp.
Coach Pimp's running backs coach. So stop yelling at your screen, everybody. We heard you.
Again, it's just, but it's the running backs, man. I mean, Jay Graham actually played the position. Before him, Dexter Carter was the running backs coach, I think.
It was.
Who was it before? I can't remember. I feel like there's somebody in the middle.
Eddie
Gran. I don't know if he played running back in college. I don't think Billy Sexton played running back in college, and he was Warwick Dunn's running back coach. So you're all that position is you can teach them where to block, where to be on a route, and then go recruit guys that are really good.
But I don't think Chris Weinke has a reputation as being some sort of top-notch recruiter. He's never had to do it.
I don't know if he's never had to do it.
It's a bizarre hire.
But if you think he's a good enough offensive mind, you want him in those staff meetings. One way or the other, you want him on your staff. If that's the only way you can get him, because he's not going to leave Alabama to not be a position coach at Tennessee. So if that's the only way you can get him on the staff, and obviously he worked with Pruitt, so Pruitt respects what he knows. So that had to be the thinking. If
you have 10 coaches now, I mean, the thing is, Helton is the OC/quarterbacks coach. We'll just call him the offensive coordinator, running back. I feel like Chris Weinke should have the title of quarterbacks coach. It just makes sense. I'm not saying that I know more about things than Jeremy Pruitt, but it's just a weird sort of.
I wonder if he's the first Heisman Trophy winner to coach a different position. I mean, it's got to be few. Somebody on one hand,
very slim field that you want to dive into on that one. So it possibly could be. This is a question I asked Ira yesterday, and I feel like you should be able to get involved in it too because this is your show as well. Florida,
okay, the state, the university,
the Gators.
Okay.
If this doesn't work out with Dan Mullen, which I was fearful at first. Listen, I wanted no part of Chip Kelly. I wanted no part of Scott Frost. So. And I don't think they did either. I mean, they wanted those guys. Dan Mullen, I think, was by far their clear number 3 candidate. So the University of Florida had to sell for their third candidate. For
the third time in 4 tries hiring a coach.
Well, yeah, because Urban wasn't number 1, right?
No, I think Urban was number 1, but before that, Zook certainly wasn't.
Right.
And then
Muschamp was, I think.
Man, I hope really.
Yeah, because Muschamp was head coach in waiting at Texas. He left that to come to.
That was obviously a big misstep. And then I can't imagine McElwain was number 1 either.
No.
So again, Florida State.
Who turned that job down though when they went after McElwain?
I don't know.
They went to Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze for sure.
Yeah, maybe,
Hugh Freeze was one of the guys they went after.
So yeah, that's when you look back at who Florida State got. It's also very rare that you get the very first person on your list. Yeah. Florida hadn't done it. They did it once, I think, with Urban because he was undefeated at Utah. Seemed like a good enough fit there. But all the other times they kind of missed on a few. Florida State just got their first guy, got him in 3 days as soon as they asked him. That kind of shows you the cachet that Florida State has.
2 times.
But anyway, go with so what were you saying about Mullen?
So I feel like Taggart's probably going to recruit much better than he's going to within the state of Florida. I don't know how much of Dan going back to the well in Tennessee and Mississippi is going to help him down here. Man, if he doesn't work out, if he's a 9-3 guy and he's not winning the East, if Kirby has a thing on lockdown, at what point does Florida State, does it ever become the more preeminent job in this state? Or not even that. Let's not look at that. But just like Florida, I mean, that will be, Zook bomb, Urban great, Will Muschamp bombs, McElwain bombs, Mullen bombs. At what point does that program sort of become like a laughing stock, or do they become diminished and lose some of their luster? Because they still haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always your next hire, though. At a place like Florida or Florida State or Georgia, even Ohio State for sure. They're the blue bloods that we call them. I don't know if Georgia actually belongs in that, honestly. Although they
make
might
it to one national title game.
I was going to say in the 37 years. They
years.
might be getting there, but they're not a blue blood right now. But I think it's always your next hire with those guys. And so, Florida, he might bomb. Mullen might be terrible. I don't think so. I think he's going to be pretty good.
I do too.
But if he does, well, they're only just one hire away because of the resources and the talent base and where they're located and their history and tradition. They're just one great hire away from being right back at it. How long did it take Florida State? I don't even know how good a coach they got. He was good for those few years, but that shows you how the history and tradition of Florida State that literally they had 3 7-6 seasons in 4 years, and 3 years later they're starting a 29-game winning streak. It doesn't take long, and he got all those great players because Florida State still had that cachet. Florida will always have that. Florida was going to have cachet for a long time too. I don't know that they'll ever get to like a just an also ran. I don't see how that could happen.
Well, Tebow is still universal for kids, too. There was a point where, you go in 2007, 2008, you're recruiting kids, like, they don't really remember Peter Warwick. A kid from the class of 2000 didn't, Chris Weinke to him is like, who? Stu Minnis, who?
And now they're like, oh, Weinke, the running backs coach at Tennessee, he played quarterback at Florida State? Wow, that's crazy.
We're coming right back. We'll dive into the Renegade Express mailbag right after this on Wake Up War Chant, ESPN 97.9 Tallahassee.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome on back into it. You've made it through 3 segments. Surely you can hang on for one more. It's Wake Up War Chant on this Friday. Thanks so much for being here. He's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. This show brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. 3 locations in College Town, Central Township. What's the third one?
Madison Social.
Boom! Get you some.
Little Mad So.
Little Mad So, indeed, man. All right, let's hop into the mailbag, the Renegade Express. So many questions to get to here, Corey.
All right, let's do it.
So Anonymous 911, we asked his question earlier in the week. He was asking about the trick plays. He also asked, what's harder to get for a recipe, the honey fried chicken recipe or the Krabby Patty formula? Is that a SpongeBob joke?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Sorry,
he wanted the first one is something they serve in the football.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what Krabby. Yeah, sorry.
We kind of touched on this, but people asked, so let's go back to it again. It looks like he's actually posting from Thailand, from Chiang Mai. Work I to view. What are the chances Bailey Hockman becomes a second-string quarterback after Blackman, since Francois won't be able to fully participate in spring practices and the game?
Man, it's hard. It's impossible to say. I don't know. The chances are there. He's the first-string quarterback. Yeah. But he's gonna get half the reps this year or in this spring. So go perform well. Willie Taggart didn't recruit James Blackman. It's not his guy. He wants to play the best guy that's for his offense that can win the most games. He might think it's Bailey Hockman.
Preseason depth chart August. Who's number 2 on the quarterback depth chart?
Francois. That's obviously I don't know that. That's just my opinion. Unless he keeps Snapchatting.
Finhead likes us, was going to give us a 5-star, but what he listens to doesn't allow him to give ratings, and he says he would rather be in a foursome with Hillary, Trump, and the decaying corpse of bin Laden than use an Apple product, so he can't give us a 5-star rating, but he does like us.
So when Apple, I guess, won't be a sponsor for us for a while.
Right. Appreciate your brand loyalty to Google there, though, Finhead.
Jeez.
Okie doke. Here we go. FSU Guy 1989.
What an image.
Yeah. FSU Guy 1989 asks, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts to any position changes coming? Something similar to Ermon Lane when he went from receiver to defensive back and then back. Who would be your picks that could potentially switch positions and not necessarily the side of the ball? So it could be somebody maybe goes from running back to wide receiver or something like that. So.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Do you think FSU 89 he was born in 89, or do you think he graduated in 89?
FSU Guy 1989.
Or he might be 89 years old.
I think he graduated probably 1989.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah. So shout out, by the way, how about that photo of Coach Taggart with Coach Bowden? Dude, Coach Bowden's 88?
Yeah.
Dude, Bowden, like, how crazy is this? I'm like, he's 88. I'm like, wait, he was 78 years old and he was still a head football coach.
I know.
That
much to some people's chagrin.
That's so crazy, man. Yeah. That's so bizarre. That sounds so
Hey, man, the baseball
right
coach is getting up there, and the basketball coach ain't far behind. In Florida State, man, you can stack on some years at this place. Man. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of any.
I saw, Gene in his Jimbo Chronicles mentioned something about Jimbo feeling really good about George Campbell because of the way he played on defense. But I don't know what that whole, hernia, a core injury thing. I feel like being on the defensive side of the ball would probably be more of a liability,
especially not this late in his career.
Yeah,
man, just go try to make some plays on offense. But
linebacker numbers are low. Maybe a guy like Jonathan. I don't want to say. I hate speculating about these things because maybe their family's listening. They're like, "What are you doing, you jerk?" Tell him. I don't know. Maybe one of the running backs moves to a linebacker position, like a guy like Jonathan Vickers. But I don't know if he has any sort of background playing
or
at
a
that
safety
position. Drops down,
puts on a weight, and moves down a little bit. That would be. I can't. I don't see anybody switching sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Except maybe a lineman here or there. They might think one of the linemen that they don't think can run their system Could be a run stopper on the other side of the ball. That's something. But as far as names, I don't really have any suggestions.
Greg Fry mentioned the kid from Wesley Chapel, I think, or from Zephyr Hills, the tall son of a gun, Chaz something, I think, the guy that's like 6'7", the offensive lineman, played a lot of defensive line in high school. And he's like, I like that. He's like, I need that sort of mentality, that physicality, that tenacity. So maybe there's somebody on the defensive side of things that Greg Fry will maybe try to pluck away.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
offensive line, I mean, that 2014, was it the 2014, 2015 class where it was Dickerson and
that was 2016. It was just
I'm sorry. And Jawan Williams, like all those kids, like it's time. It's
yeah,
time, boys.
This is your time, guys.
All right.
Time to shine.
Captain D _63. Question number 1. With the poor play of the offense.
Do you think he was born in 63? 63 years old, or graduated?
There's a photo of him. I'm going to say I think he was born in 63.
Okay.
You look good, though, Cap. You look good, Cap.
Mid-50s. All right.
Yeah.
Looking good.
Question 1. With the poor play of the offensive line the last 3 years and with the bulk of the same guys coming back, what is one to expect from this unit under Coach Fry?
I think it will be improved.
Okay.
I just think
still the same players, just different coaching. So why would this group be different, Corey?
It'll be a different system too, and it might be easier. It's not so much of what they've been doing in the past. I think that will help. I just
they weren't getting blown up off the ball. They just didn't know who to hit.
There's a lot of times that would happen.
More blown assignments than lack of physicality.
And they had moments when they were fine. I mean, a lot of the times when Blackman got sacked, that was on Blackman. And again, every fan base thinks their offensive line isn't any good or is struggling, or their offensive line coach isn't any good, except for Tuscaloosa and a few other places. So I don't think Florida State's offensive line last year was as bad as people want to think it was. I just think you had a freshman quarterback that held onto the ball a little bit too long. Francois was a police sketch every week the year before. That was they were a train wreck in 15.
Good metaphor.
In 16.
Good metaphor.
But last year I think they were okay and they ran pretty well. And I there's some talent there. And Greg Fry's a really good offensive line. The proof's there, man. He did it in Indiana. So he's a really good offensive line coach. And I think maybe they can use a different voice than the one they've had the last few years. Maybe that'll help.
Get Down Black. Yes, he's African-American, Corey, if you're going to ask what his name meant. I recently saw Mario Edwards post a chrome helmet, which I love. What is the percentage that we wear 2 or more of the exotic uniforms? White on white helmets maybe, chrome helmet, maybe a turquoise uniform, or we turning into Oregon, which I'm all for. Thanks, guys. We'll be listening like every day.
I think they'll do one a year. That's what I think. I think Taggart, it ain't Oregon, man. Oregon's just a bunch of green and yellow slop. Like, that's not any – nobody thinks back to their childhood and thinks, man, those Oregon Duck uniforms from 1987
you can't keep up with them.
Sweet. So they change them every week. That's their tradition, weirdly. It's changing their uniforms.
It's having no tradition.
Yeah, Florida State and Michigan and schools like that, they have awesome uniforms. Florida State has the best uniform in college football and the coolest helmet. You don't need to change it every week, but I think he'll do it once a week for the once a year for the players.
I don't. I think he's actually going to do more than that. I don't think it's going to be Oregon, but I would think 2-3 times. I don't think just once. I
mean, you only get 7 home, maybe once on the road and once at home. I think he'd do it once at home, maybe. Yeah. We can get rid of the blackouts though.
He asked another question later in the day. Same guy, Get Down Black. Based off the podcast from, I think it was on Monday, will the fan base accept 9-4 or 8-5 seasons if we're putting up 40 to 50 points of exciting football?
No. I mean, maybe for a couple of years. By that third year, you can't be going 8-5 again. People will be like, you better fire your defensive coordinator.
Garnet76, following up on Corey's conversation about what name to use to describe himself, how about jumping in there with Madonna and Beyonce and just going by Corey?
Oh, just the first name.
Yeah.
Okay, like the Brazilian soccer players, they just have the one name.
Yeah. Singular name.
I don't know. Corey's not a cool enough name to just go.
I don't know. I feel.
You think my byline should just be Corey?
Corey.
Okay, that's cool.
Noel Nation 386. He's the big homie. He posted like a really nice thread about me a long time ago. Shout out, buddy. All right, who will have the most carries in the 2018 season? LeBourne or Zaquandre White?
Man, that's a good question.
That's a damn good question.
Patrick.
Not on the menu. LeBourne or Zaquandre? I'm going to say LeBourne just because, actually,
Man, let me say this: we only got to watch the one practice last year, which again, that's fine. I don't like to watch practice. I think that's plenty, to be honest with you. But when I watched him in practice, LeBourne, he was really impressive. I mean, he's got those big, thick legs and can move and has a lot of lateral speed. I mean, he put his foot in the ground and go like Weinke. Right. Maybe Weinke got a hold of him at IMG and really taught him that stuff. I don't remember if he has but anyway.
No, he's from the DMV.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't know if maybe him and Weinke's paths crossed, and that's where he learned those moves. But he was really impressive. In fact, I wrote something because I write dumb things from time to time. I thought he was going to end up being the better of the two big-time freshman running backs that came in last year. Yeah. Cam Akers kind of proved me wrong. But I think LeBourne's really talented, man, and so I think he'll get some carries, plenty of carries.
I did a really bad job of producing the show today. We're going to probably run out of time, so let's try to go a little bit on the hop here.
Quick, let's do it.
Noel Nation 386 continues his list of questions. Will DJ Matthews have under 500 yards punt return yardage by the end of the year?
Over. I think that's a lot of punt return yards. That's like, what is that, like 30 a game? That seems like a lot. That's 40 a game. Yeah, he's going to have under.
Okay.
I don't even know what the record is at Florida State, but I can't imagine it's much more than 5.
Corey did the math. Guess the starting offensive line.
Oh, no. I'll do another one.
Josh Bell will be in there, we think, maybe? Mm-hmm. Left tackle, maybe, perhaps?
Dickerson will be in there somewhere, I think.
There you go. Under trick plays, 15.
Ooh, that's a good number. That's a really good number. It's
I'm taking under.
I'm going to take over.
Okay.
If we call like different, like what about Cam in the wild? What about Cam in the Wildcat? Is that a trick play?
Only if he takes a step forward and then he bounces back and then throws a pass like 50 yards down the field.
I'm going to say over. I think they'll have over 15 trick plays. That's a good question.
Here we go. We got a baseball question. With Holton's season-ending injury, what are your modified expectations for the team? Same as before or adjusted without his arm in the rotation and bat in the lineup?
The thing about Florida State, not oddly, but it's just something that I don't think is really appreciated. Their expectations are always Omaha, and they'll be good enough to get there. Whether they get there or not, postseason crapshoot, June, anything can happen. But the expectations, I think, are pretty much the same because I didn't expect them to win a national title because until they do, I'm not going to expect them to. You know what I'm saying?
If you just moved here to Tallahassee for the first time and you thumbed through the media guide and you saw how good, you didn't realize all the times it came up short, you would look at this team, you'd look at this lineup, you'd look at those arms, and you'd be like, they're going to Omaha and they can compete for it. But then you factor in the 40-plus years of witnessing heartbreak, and you're like, well, why should it happen this year? But this was a team that you felt like those three guys, if Sands made the step, and then you have Tyler, Sands, and Drew, you go to Omaha, you win your first 2 games, and then you got 5 days off.
Win
and then
your
Tyler
first game for once.
Right. Yeah,
once. Just win the first one.
Well, then you get 5 days off, and you're like, all right, we got Holton then to make to the championship game. I really like that a lot. So I would probably.
But you weren't expecting that. You weren't expecting them to do that. That's why I'm saying the expectations
they're built
are still the same.
It. Yeah, for sure. That's the same. I mean, I don't know.
But hey, one of these times, get out. My expectation is they get out there, and then you hope they get lucky.
Fair enough. And then lastly, we really couldn't get to this. Maybe we'll touch on it maybe in a roundabout way, but if you maybe have like a 20-second thing you want to add here, Corey. Somebody kind of basically asked, we'd love to hear our insights about how writers juggle the hunger for juicy nuggets from subscribers, plus the journalistic mission to paint a full, accurate, compelling picture. Kind of, how do you, what's your barometer? What's your moral compass as a journalist, Corey?
To, kind of write the truth. And if somebody tells me something in confidence that I don't write about it, I don't mention it because it was off the record. Off the record doesn't mean I quote an anonymous source because that's on the record. It's just you don't know who said it. Yeah. Off the record means you don't talk about it. It's off the record. But, yeah, I mean, you kind of just want the truth. You just want to go for the truth. And if somebody says, man, you can't print that, I'm not going to print it. That's kind of the deal we make as journalists and with your subjects and the people you're talking to.
Yeah, you guys got your big platefuls of Jimbo Chronicles. How do you like them apples? How do they taste?
That's a question that's hard to answer in a short amount of time. There's a lot that goes into that.
We'll get to that one on another time, FSU Fred. We appreciate all the questions on the Renegade Express. That's a wrap for the show and the week. We'll see you on Monday. He's Corey, I'm Aslan. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3.
WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source, knows now is a time of true excitement for Nole fans everywhere. That's why WarChant.com is especially proud to announce its newest team member, senior writer Corey Clark. Combine Corey's expertise with owner Gene Williams and managing editor Ira Schoffel, and WarChant.com boasts nearly 50 years of experience covering the team you love. It's Taggart time in Tallahassee, and that means now is the perfect time to sign up for your free 30-day trial. From National Signing Day to March Madness, WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.